Discuss about the physiology of the ear. So we go to the part. This is called pinna. This is the big part is called pinna, and this is called tragus. This is called tragus. Okay, and this is the ear canal. Okay, and the outer 1/3 is cartilage. Inner 2/3 is bony part. This part is bony. Bone is there, and this is the cartilage part, soft part. Okay, and as you go, it hits the tympanic membrane. This tympanic membrane, and if I take this tympanic membrane, you can see the tympanic membrane. It is circle, but it is protruded inwards. Okay, so inside this, these are three ossicles: handle of malleus, then incus, and the foot plate of steps. Okay, malleus, incus, and the steps. And then as you go to the inner ear, you see there are. This is the cochlea. Okay, I take the inner ear. As you go to the inner ear, this is the cochlea. 2.5 turns like a shell connected with the cochlear nerve. And today we'll discuss about the vestibular apparatus. Okay, so this vestibular apparatus, as you see, these are consist of three. So the vestibular apparatus, as you see, the vestibular system or apparatus, it consists of three semicircular canals. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so you can see this. Now this one is anterior. This one is called anterior or superior. Okay, this one is called superior or anterior semicircular canal. Okay, this one is called horizontal. As you see, it is lying in the horizontal plane, and this one is posterior. Okay, so these are three coiled tubes. You can say these are three coiled tubes. There are three coiled tubes. So what are in the tubes? There are fluid. What is this fluid? Endolymph. There is endolymph in the fluid. So there is endolymph present here. So inside these tubes, these three coiled tubes. Okay, so you can see one is superior. Okay, one is superior or anterior, one is horizontal, and one is posterior. So superior, lateral or horizontal, and posterior semicircular canal. So they are called semicircular canal. Okay, so superior or anterior, posterior, and lateral semicircular canals. So they are, one is lying in this way. Okay, that is posterior, that is superior, and horizontal. There are three semicircular canals. Okay. These three semicircular canals, what is the speciality of these three semicircular canals? So what is the speciality of these three semicircular canals is that they are all open into a dilated part that is called ampulla. This is called ampulla. They are open into a dilated part called ampulla. And these semicircular canals, they detect our rotational movements of the head. They detect our rotational movement when we are moving the head left to right or rotating the head. So all the rotational movement or the angular movement of the head is detected by these semicircular canals. And the interesting point to note here that, okay, as we know in the cochlea there are hair cells. Here also there are some hair cells, which are also called kinocilium. There are some hair cells here. Okay, now when this hair cells moves, there is this generation of the action potential. Okay, when these hair cells, because they are connected to the ganglion, scapus ganglion, and it's called vestibular nerve. So when we move our head, what happens? The fluid moves, right? The fluid moves. Okay, so when we move our head, the fluid also moves. When the fluid moves, it moves the hair cells. So when this hair cells moves, depolarization takes place, action potential starts, and stimulates the vestibular nerve. And it tells the brain about the position of your head. This vestibular nerve constantly feed the cerebellum, thalamus, reticular system, spinal cord, cerebral cortex. But constantly tells the brain that where is your head located? Is it in the right or is it in the left? Okay, are you moving or not? Is it nodding or up it constantly tells about the position of the head. How it tells? Because every time you move your, suppose you're moving your head to the right, you're moving your head to the right. Now what will happen to the fluid? If you're moving to the right, suppose there is water here and I'm moving here, so will the water will go this way or backwards? Okay, that's because of the inertia, fluid will move back, right? If this is a if this is a bottle of half filled water, if there is half filled water in this bottle, okay, in this tube, and if I move this tube in this direction, then water will obviously come back side because of the inertia. Okay, if I move this tube like this, water will come back side. So when we move our head to the right, suppose this is the right side, then the fluid will move this side. Okay, so when the fluid will move this side, so one side, when it is stimulated on this side, it inhibits, or you can say it hyperpolarizes. It inhibits the action potential. Inhibits the action potential. I'll explain it to you again, don't worry. And when we move our head on this side, on the left side, then the fluid will obviously come this side and it will move the hair cells. Action potential will be generated, okay, and vestibular nerve will be stimulated, and the whole thing goes to the brain, right? Now why this is needed? Because we have 2 ears, right, and we have 2 vestibular systems. So if I am rotating my head on the left side, then my left side vestibular nerve will be stimulated, and on my right ear fluid will move in opposite direction, and the right ear vestibular nerve will not be stimulated. So that will tell the brain that, okay, right side brain vestibular nerve is not stimulated, left side vestibular nerve is stimulated. It means the head is on the left side. So that is the mechanism. The fluid moves both sides according to opposite direction of the head, right? So that is the mechanism. This fluid in the semicircular canal, they constantly feed the brain about the position of your head, whether it is on right or left. Okay, so that is the way. So because of this movement of the endolymph, right? So the lateral semicircular canal, okay, the lateral semicircular canal. So we are talking about this lateral part, this horizontal, okay, this horizontal part, lateral part. So this lateral semicircular canal, it basically is, it says about rotation of head in a vertical axis. Okay, rotation of head in vertical axis. Vertical axis means when you are moving head of one side to another. So when you are moving your head in a vertical axis, okay, left or right, that is sensed by the lateral semicircular canal, the lateral semicircular canal. Okay, the superior or anterior semicircular canal, the superior anterior semicircular canal, the superior, this one, the superior or the anterior semicircular canal, they mainly say about the rotation of head in sagittal plane, means nodding of head. When you are saying nodding your head, that is done by the superior and anterior. If you see the position of the semicircular canal, this is superior or anterior semicircular canal. Okay, so when we move our head like this, then the fluid moves in the opposite direction, stimulate. Okay, so superior semicircular canal or anterior semicircular canal, it is telling us about the nodding of the head or position of the head in sagittal plane, rotation of the head in sagittal plane, rotation of head in a sagittal plane, that is nodding. Okay, and then posterior semicircular canal. Okay, posterior semicircular canal, this is the posterior semicircular canal, the posterior semicircular canal. The posterior semicircular canal. Okay, so this posterior semicircular canal, it basically tells about the position of the head in a rotational moment. So when you are touching the ears to your shoulders, so when you are rotating your head like this, touching the ears to your shoulders, that is done by the posterior semicircular canal. So posterior semicircular canal, it says about the head touching the shoulders. Rotational moment, head touching the shoulders. Head touching the shoulders. It tells about the rotational moment of head of 30 degree around when your ears are touching the shoulders. Okay. So that is about the semicircular canals. So this is in brief about the semicircular canals. Okay. So there the vestibular circle system apparatus consists of 3 semicircular canals, 1, 2, and 3. Anterior, superior, lateral, and posterior. Right. Now we go to the another set of vestibular apparatus that are called ventricle and saccule. So apart from the semicircular canal, there are another 2 things that are called ventricle and saccule. They are also called otolith organs. Otolith organs. Okay. So the ventricle and saccule. So this ventricle and saccule, they determine the linear acceleration. Suppose you are sitting in a car, and when you are moving inside the car, so there is acceleration of your body also. So your head is also moving, right, in the car. So ventricle and saccules, they say about the linear acceleration of the head. Linear acceleration of the head. Okay, linear acceleration of the head. So when we are moving, or suddenly you stop, suddenly apply the brake, so fluid in the ventricle and saccule, they also moving like this. So they are telling about the linear movement of the head. So when you are moving in a car, moving in a bus, all the straight line movements, or when you are stopping, so they will determine the linear movements or linear acceleration of the head. So from this you can see, so this the whole vestibular system, from this ventricle, saccule, and then this semicircular canals, the nerve that comes out is called vestibular nerve. So where this vestibular nerve goes? Like from the cochlear nerve comes and goes to the auditory cortex. Now where this vestibular nerve goes? This vestibular nerve, that is nerve number 8, cranial nerve number 8. So this vestibular and cochlear nerve, they are meant in one package, okay? Vestibular cochlear nerve, that's why you say vestibular. So this vestibular nerve, like the cochlear nerve, it also goes to the opposite side, also goes to the same side. A very complex pathway actually, and goes and terminates in the brainstem. Terminates in the brainstem. Okay, they terminate in the brainstem. Not only to the brainstem, they also go to the reticular formation. And if you remember, in the cerebellum, there is a flocculonodular lobe. So they also goes to the flocculonodular lobe. This vestibular system controls the movements of our eyes, that is gaze. So nerve number 3, nerve number 4, nerve number 6. So all this to the nucleus of the 3rd, nucleus of 4th, nucleus of 6th. So to this nerve nucleus, it also gives the pathway. So and it also crosses the opposite sides. Also some fibers goes to the same side, and it terminates in the brainstem, and then further it communicates with the cerebral cortex. So overall, this whole vestibular system, what they do, overall they maintains our posture and balance. That's number 1. They maintains our posture and balance. Then they stabilize our eyes when you are rotating. Now when we rotate our head, our eyes always, eye movements, there is a movement of eye, it always moves in opposite side. If I move my head to left, my eyeballs will move to the right side. That's a normal physiological phenomenon. It happens so that our vision don't become blurred, so that we don't lose the sight. Okay, I am watching in this camera, and even then I move my head, but even I can watch. If I watching it, so even my head is moving, I can keep on watching that. I can't miss that point. Okay, so if you're watching at some point, and even your head, because our head is constantly motion, right? You are working, it's constantly some sort of minimal motion. Constantly there is some constant of minimal motion. You're working, you are talking, your head is moving. But if your eyes are also moving with your head, then you can have a blurry vision, right? If your eyeballs also move with the movement of even if it's a slight movement of your head, your movement will become blurred. It cannot be clear. So to avoid that, we have a reflex called vestibulo-ocular reflex. Vestibulo-ocular reflex, VOR. So this VOR or vestibulo-ocular reflex, it stabilizes our eyes. It makes our gaze fixed. So due to this vestibulo-ocular reflex, when our head moves to the left, our eyeballs moves to the right. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you here. So when our head moves to the left, then due to vestibulo-ocular reflex or VOR, our eyeballs will move to the opposite side. Okay, it moves to the always opposite side. Okay, so this vestibulo-ocular reflex is a mandatory part of our thing. We need it so that we don't lose the sight, so that our vision don't becomes blurred every time our head is moving. Okay, so that's why this vestibulo-ocular reflex or this vestibular system, it stabilizes our eyes by doing the vestibulo-ocular reflex. So number 1 is posture and balance. Number 2 is stabilize our eyes by vestibulo-ocular reflex. Another third function of vestibular reflex is it tells the position of your head, position or movement of your head to the brain. It constantly tells you where you are standing. Okay, your position of your head in comparison to the position of the body. It constantly feed the brain where your head is standing. So your position of the head, whether it is right, left, center, up, nodding, what you are doing, constantly tells. So whenever this communication is lost, like we happen in motion sickness, whenever this semicircular canals could not anymore because of constantly rotating left, right, this sometimes the feedback is not going what you are seeing. Okay, you are looking at something and feedback is giving something, okay, because of constant movement, then we may feel nausea, vomiting, all those kind of things. That is called motion sickness. We'll come to that part. So that's why the position and movement of your head is constantly feeded by our semicircular canals and the utricle and saccule. So these are about the vestibular system or vestibular apparatus. Okay. Now if you have any questions, you can ask me now. So our next topic for today is vertigo. So vertigo might come in a short note. Okay. So what is vertigo? So there are different, you can say it is explained differently by different type of patients. Some people say it's lightheadedness, some people say dizziness, some people say faintness. Okay, it's a symptom. This is not a sign, it's a symptom, it's a perception. Some people say I'm feeling lightheaded, some people say spinning of world, some people say dizziness, some people say fainting. So overall we come to one word that includes all the things. That's called vertigo. So spinning of the world or spinning of your head associated with nausea and vomiting. These are associated symptoms which may be present, may not be present. Okay. So when you have a patient of vertigo, first thing you have to analyze whether this vertigo is because of the ears or is vertigo is because of the brain. Okay, so we have to first divide it into two parts. First you have to diagnose the patient in two ways, whether this is peripheral or central. Whether this vertigo is peripheral or this is the central vertigo. Central vertigo when the problem is in the brain stem. When the problem is in the brain stem. Peripheral when it is problem is in the semicircular canals or the vestibular nerve. So problem are there in the semicircular canals or the utricle, saccule or vestibular nerve. Now how will you differentiate? When you get a vertigo patient, when someone is saying my head is spinning, okay, how will you differentiate? So first thing, if it is a peripheral vertigo, there will be hear loss, means hearing loss, okay, not ear loss, sorry, there will be hearing loss in one ear, there will be one affected ear, so he will either complain of pain in that ear or complain of hearing loss in that ear. There will be one affected ear. But when, if it is a central vertigo, when the position, when the problem is because of either there is some infections or meningitis or trauma, whatever it is, if it is a central, then both the ears will be affected, because the central, the brain stem will get the information from both the ears. So when the central nervous system, or when the problem is in the brain, or when it is central vertigo, both the ears will be affected. Both the ears will be affected. In central vertigo, there is nystagmus. As I told you long time before in one class, what is nystagmus? When there is a movement of the eyeballs, which is not going according to the vestibulo-ocular reflex. Okay, when there is a movement of the eyeballs, abnormal movement of the eyeballs, okay, or pendular movement of the eyeballs. So nystagmus are present here in central vertigo. Nystagmus, eyeballs will move in horizontal or vertical direction, horizontal or vertical direction, eyeballs will move. But here nystagmus is not so common. Nystagmus not usually present, not present. Other than, so here in peripheral vertigo, hearing loss, and of course there is one more thing, don't forget tinnitus. So if the vertigo is because of the peripheral problems like semicircular canals, ventricle, saccule, or vestibular nerve number 8, there will be associated tinnitus. Tinnitus means buzzing of the ears, like poo, that makes a buzzing sound. So tinnitus will be present, which will not be present in the central vertigo. And if the vertigo is because of the central, there will be some central symptoms. When the vertigo is because of the brain, there will be some associated symptoms like hiccups, okay, double vision or diplopia. These are associated symptoms. And dysarthria, painful joints, dysarthria, hiccups, double vision, they are associated symptoms which may be present. They are associated symptoms, they may be present, may not be present. Okay, so they are presented when it is a central type of vertigo, when the vertigo is because of the brain, not because of the ears, not because of the inner ear. But if the vertigo is because of the inner ear, these things are not present, these things are absent. There will be ear ache, maybe, may not be, but there will be hearing loss in one ear. There will be nystagmus, which is not common, tinnitus will be there. Okay, so tinnitus will be present. So so this is about central and peripheral. Now we'll go to the causes. Which one is the most common causes? Okay, hold on. Where is the duster? Sorry. So when someone is complaining of swinging or spinning head, faintness, lightheadedness, first thing you need to exclude pre-syncope. Is it because the brain is not getting enough blood? You have to exclude that thing. Any sort of loss of consciousness. When brain doesn't get enough blood, that is also, it can also produce spinning of head. So you have to exclude these conditions. That is not because of the heart or the brain. You have to exclude anything that heart is not, the cardiac output is less, so brain is not getting enough blood supply, or is there any vascular problem in the blockage in the arteries or vascular system. You have to exclude this thing by doing ECG, by doing CT scan, whatever you can do. Okay, you have to analyze all those things to exclude pre-syncope and vascular symptoms. You have to make sure there is no blockage in the cerebral artery, there is no cardiac output is okay, and the brain is getting enough blood. So once you exclude the pre-syncope and vascular symptoms or any MI, all those things, then you go for this causes. So the most common causes of vertigo, let me make a chart, it will be better, is BPH. So that is called benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, BPPH. So BPPH is called benign positional paroxysmal vertigo, and this is the most commonest vertigo. When you get a patient, you have to always go from more common to less common. We will think in that way. So it is the most common. So this is that type of vertigo when patients say, whenever I move my head, I feel giddy, I feel dizzy. Sometimes while I was sleeping, I suddenly change my position, I feel dizziness. Sometimes I just move my head from up to down, I feel giddiness. Sometimes I just try to tie my shoelace, I feel dizzy. Okay, this is that type of thing. It's a benign paroxysmal positional vertigo where vertigo lasts for less than a minute. Vertigo lasts for less than a minute. Less than 1 minute. Less than 1 minute, usually 20 to 45 seconds. Less than a minute. Sometimes associated with nausea, vomiting. Okay? And it is a recurrent thing. Okay, it occurs sometimes once in a week, sometimes twice in a week. But the thing that you have to diagnose, how do you diagnose? From the duration. When you ask the patient how long you feel the dizziness, just for a few seconds. Okay, then this is the most commonest one, BPPH, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. Now, what is the pathophysiology of BPH? Okay, I'll tell you what. So, if you remember the utricle and the saccule here, so in the otolith organ here, there is a otolith membrane. So, above this utricle and saccule here, there is a membrane here, which is called otolith membrane. Otolith membrane. Now this otolith membrane, these are made of calcium carbonate crystals. These are made of calcium carbonate crystals. They are made of calcium carbonate crystals. Which are also called as otoconia. So what happens in some unfortunate patients? These crystals, which are made of calcium carbonate, they broke off. Some calcium carbonate crystals, they are broke off from here and they enter the semicircular canals and they float inside the semicircular canals. So this calcium otoconia, they are sometimes, when it is analyzed, people see some calcium carbonate crystals, which are called otoconia. So this otoconia or these crystals are found floating in the fluid. Because of that, sometimes BPPH results. Now there is no treatment for that. We cannot remove these crystals from there. The only thing is that there is it's often seen that patients they relieve when they are taking less salty foods, or diuretics are given, or antihistaminic drugs are given. Then also sometimes it heals. And there is also one maneuver. Usually we do Epley's maneuver. So where in the Epley's maneuver, we have to ask the patient to lie in a proper position and we maneuver it. Okay, I'll show in I'll show that thing in your lab. Okay, how we do Epley maneuver to make the patient rid of vertigo, constant vertigo, like BPPH. There's a proper position. Okay, it's a 15 minutes, 10 minutes procedure, like a physiotherapy. We just rotate the head in a particular direction so that these otoconias, they settle down. So when they settle down, this dizziness goes off. Okay, so that Epley's maneuver is very important. So this is the case of BPPH, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, which is maximum patients, this one is present, which is less than a minute, usually 20 to 45 seconds. So next common cause of vertigo is because of migraine. When the vertigo is because of migraine. Okay, so we also call as vestibular migraine. When the migraine is associated with vertigo. Okay, when the migraine is associated with vertigo. Now you have to know this thing, that when there is a migraine, okay, everybody faces some situation of headache. So when you say headache, so migraine is infamous for headache. It's a primary type of headache. And what the point to be noted, it is mostly unilateral. One side of the head is having headache. Unilateral is more common than, but gradually over the time it may become bilateral, but it's unilateral headache and pulsating. Unilateral and pulsating. And one thing to be noted, that when there is a migraine, people usually, around 30 to 40% people, they always have an aura before the headache. They have an aura. Means, what do you understand by aura? It's like a visual perceptions, like flashing of lights. They often have these things before the starting of headache, and then they know that my headache is going to come now, which is called aura, like flashing of the lights, some visual perceptions. Okay, so this aura starts, then there is a headache, and what happens, this vestibular migraine, it often lasts for few minutes to few hours, few minutes to few hours. Okay, it is not less than a minute. If the vertigo or the giddiness is because of the migraine, it will be few minutes. In some patients it will be 5 minutes, 6 minutes, but most of the time it's 2 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours, like that. So if there is headache along with giddiness or dizziness or lightheadedness that lasts for few hours, then this is because of the migraine, what we call vestibular migraine. Okay, so that is vestibular migraine. And if it is less than a minute, that is benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. Okay, so that is the vestibular migraine. Now, what is the another condition, that is Meniere's disease. Meniere's disease, where it is also few hours. It also lasts for few hours, is prolonged hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, even sometimes goes for 2 to 3 days also. It is a Meniere's disease. So in this Meniere's disease, there is one thing that we noted, there will be fluctuating hearing loss. Fluctuating hearing loss. During that time, there will be fluctuating hearing loss on one eye. 1 year. There will be fluctuating hearing loss, and usually this is 20 minutes to few hours. Okay, 20 minutes to few hours. So there will be fluctuating hearing loss, and there is no proper etiology why this Meniere's disease develops. But this thing is, when it was studied, it was found that there is overproduction of endolymph. There is, means the semicircular canal, the endolymph production is more than the required. So overproduction of endolymph is one of the cause. Overproduction of endolymph. So that's why the patient often complains of fullness of the ears. They complain of fullness of the ears, like ear is heavy, fullness. So fullness of the ears is common. And what else? Let me check if I missed something. Yeah, I said. So there will be fullness of ears, there will be fluctuating hearing loss, there may be tinnitus. Okay, there may be tinnitus, and so tinnitus may be absent, may be present. Okay, so tinnitus, hearing loss, ear ache, maybe, may not be, but these are the basic 3 things responsible for vertigo. Okay, benign positional vertigo. The vertigo may be because of migraine. The vertigo may be because of Meniere's disease. One more thing that can result in vertigo is labyrinthitis. When there is a viral infection of the labyrinth means when there is viral infection of the inner ear. Okay, when there is a most commonly it is a viral infection. When there is a viral infection of the inner ear, then vertigo may result. But what are the common things? Number 1, number 2, and number 3. So these are the common causes for vertigo. Treatment in all these cases are basically one thing, that is antihistaminics. Okay, antihistaminics. So antihistaminics is the basic treatment of choice, whether it is in motion sickness. Even in motion sickness we give antihistaminics. Okay, there are two types of histamine now. Don't be confused. One histamine that bronchoconstrictor, that we are not talking about that histamine that causes the allergic reaction. One is H1, one is H2. So we are dealing with this another antihistamines, not the allergy one. So these antihistamines like some cyclizins, okay, or prometagens. So these are the basically drugs are used, okay, for this type of vertigos, and for motion sickness also these are used, and some patches can be also used, scopolamine patches. These are antihistamines, scopolamine. But if you have a constant motion sickness, whenever you travel by car, travel by bus, there is something that you feel nausea, then the best treatment is usually you have to keep your vision fixed. So whenever you're traveling and you feel giddy or feel nausea, the best treatment is how you make your position of the eyes fixed. So just take a point in the horizon, take a point in the sky, and just keep your eyes fixed. So more you are rotating your head with the road, your eyeballs are moving, you are changing the fixation, and more you will feel giddy. Okay, so you have to keep your eyesight fixed. So take any point in the sky, any tree, any point in the horizon, any point in the cloud, fix and just stare it. So as long as you will stare it, you will not feel motion sickness. So once you lose that target, when you go beyond that, past that road, then take another position, another point in somewhere in the horizon, and just keep it on watching, make your position fixed. So as long as you keep your eyeballs fixed, you will never feel motion sickness. Okay, and for the motion sickness, that's what you should not read any sort of any text or anything in the mobile phone or any books. That's not good for those people who are having motion sickness, because you're constantly changing your eyesight. You'll feel more giddy. So your purpose in the motion sickness is the treatment of motion. If you don't have any tablet, is to keep your eye position fixed. That is the basic thing. Now, if I ask you to rotate, if I ask you to take 10 turns, after stopping of the 10 turns, you may feel dizzy, because our semicircular canal, the fluid in the semicircular canal is moving here and there. They are not able to give the right position of the head to the brain, so you will feel giddy. But if you, every time you make a circle, so before taking a circle, if you take certain point, okay, I'll watch this point when I come back from the rotation. So every time you take a circle, and watch that point, another circle, again come and watch that point. In that way you can rotate 100 circles, you will not feel giddy. That's the way the ballet dancers, or those dancers, they rotate and they don't feel giddy. They immediately go for the next step in the dance. Okay, so that is the point. Once you keep your eyes fixed in some point, so after every rotation you are watching that point, and again another rotation you're watching that point, you will never feel giddy, because your eyes are fixed. If you keep your eyes fixed at one point, you will not feel giddy. That's the simple logic behind it. Okay, so that is about the vertigo. The treatment is basically antihistaminics and some behavioral things. And vertigo can be also psychological in some of depression also it can occur, sometimes during menstruation also. Sometimes some people may feel vertigo. People are anemic, they can also feel vertigo. So it is all maybe due to other causes, but we are just dealing with the most common problems. Alright, so that is about vertigo or dizziness or lightheadedness or faintness. Okay, so